any other local officials? Seeing none, I will begin the comments from the general public. I do have a list. There are 25 people on this list that would like to speak. So I will start with the first page and work right through the list as we proceed. So I would ask 5 minutes apiece. We're going to be here 2 hours to hear this list. So 2 minutes? Can we? We'll set the bar tight and then we'll work with whatever we've gotten. So yeah, just to give everybody an opportunity. I hope I don't mess too many of these names up. Meg Loughran, is that correct?
Loughran.
Loughran, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Meg Loughran, and I'm the current president of the Centerville Civic Association. As has been mentioned, it was our association under the presidency of Peter Fisher that asked for the Craigville Beach District to be designated as a DCPC some 32 months ago. Since that time, as you know, this area has twice been designated as a DCPC. I won't go through the history because Councilor Jochum did an excellent job of that, but I just want to reiterate that the vote taken in August was 8 in favor of this and 12 in favor, and 8 out of 12 councilors supported this, so we had the clear majority. And we would have had that ninth vote if Fred Chirigotis hadn't had to recuse himself. I'd like to address the petition submitted to the commission by the opponents. I did some fact-checking on that petition and wanted to just share some insights with you. The 168 names on the petition actually represent 148 individuals, as people that own more than one property signed that number of times. Out of the 148 individuals, 43 are year-round residents and 105 are not. That is not to say these folks don't have a voice. They certainly do. What I have here are well over 400 signatures collected in a very short period of time from year-round residents from all over our town who support the Cape Cod Commission's implementing regulations that will protect the beauty, ecology, and historical significance of the Craigville Beach District. I was glad to hear a previous speaker just mention that we should be thinking as a whole town and not just a precinct or an area. I thought that was very enlightened. These people understand that Craigville Beach and the surrounding waters belong to all of us and need to be protected. The opponents have argued that the DCPC was not requested for water quality protection, but I think we can all agree that controls on building equals less stress on the resource. The new rules laid out in the implementing regulations level the playing field by using the same set of rules for everyone. Also, these regulations allow every property owner to add on something, just not whatever they want. This is what we, the proponents of the DCPC, have wanted and compromised really a great deal to get. The opponents have stated on numerous occasions, really including today, that they think the proposed regulations are sound, but they still want grandfathering to exist. So it seems to me that they feel the new rules are fine, just as long as they don't have to follow them. Finally, I would like to tell you and the Cape Cod Commission staff that I believe the characterizations and mistruths perpetuated by the opponents in regard to you have been regrettable and frankly insulting. You've been painted as the big bad wolves coming to blow their houses down. This is just the opposite of your mission, which is to manage growth, protect Cape Cod's unique environment and character, and to foster a healthy community for present and future generations. I have great faith that that is what you will do today by voting to enact these implementing regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Barry, W-E-I-N-E-R. Weiner? Okay.
Afternoon. I'm an attorney with Roberto, Israel, and Weiner in Boston, and I represent and have since the beginning of the process property owners within the proposed DCPC district on Long Beach Road, South Main Street, and Lake Elizabeth Road. My client opposes the DCPC and has from the beginning. She does not oppose, and her family does not oppose, reasonable zoning regulations enacted under the Enabling Act, Chapter 40A, and indeed, the proposal that was submitted to the council that mirrored almost exactly the document that you have in front of you as a DCPC was submitted to the council as a zoning amendment under Chapter 40A. Now, one might ask reasonably if you've got the same document substantively, which is what you have here, why is this become such a big fuss? What's behind all of this argument over whether or not this should be a DCPC implementing regulation or whether it should be enacted as zoning amendments under General Laws Chapter 40A? Let me tell you that you've heard some of those arguments here mentioned by the proponents of the DCPC and also by Councilor Crocker, who spoke in opposition to it. Grandfathering is a very serious issue. It is an important property right. Zoning enacted after you've had a lot created and have a building on it that would force you to change that building to conform to new zoning or the lot is protected by grandfathering, which is a time-honored concept, not simply in Massachusetts, but throughout the nation, and has been for almost 100 years. Now, that means an awful lot to people. Unless you think that my clients, as was suggested by some of the previous speakers, are part of a minority that feel that way on grandfathering, on loss of judicial review under General Laws Chapter 40A, which is a very important right for people who own property and feel that they have been harmed unfairly or improperly by actions insofar as zoning is concerned. Those would be severely restricted by a DCPC. And then, of course, you've heard about the loss of local control. Some people think that's really not a serious issue. You can always come to the Commission and get redress. Yes, it's not about who implements the rules. It's about who makes the rules. And people reasonably in the district want the rules continually made by their local representatives and appointed people by the local government. That's not a difficult concept, I know, for any of us to understand. That's democracy. Now, where are we with all of this? Well, it was suggested at the outset, and I served on the advisory group along with my partner, Bill Rickman, who's a professor at BU Law School, who sits here in the front row, and who drafted General Laws Chapter 40A, the Zoning Enabling Act, and who drafted the Subdivision Control Law. He's a land use expert. We looked at the DCPC and we wondered, particularly after we saw ultimately what the final draft was. Why is it that this can't be enacted and make everybody happy as a zoning amendment under Chapter 40A? And even with regard to the recent tag-ons by staff, with regard to water quality, septage, and so forth, why is it that that can't be enacted locally by the Board of Health, which, as I recall, Patty Daly indicated the Board of Health was perfectly happy with. It is because of those kinds of reasons that we just discussed that are really very important pieces for personal property owners. Now, what has been said to us from the beginning by the proponents? I think you all must have heard it at any one of the meetings that were held, that were public or otherwise. And I'm sure as you read in the newspaper, as I did, that the DCPC was overwhelmingly supported by the people in the district. We heard that over and over again. Well, in fact, we wanted to test that out. And you heard about a petition that was circulated by the people in the district to get a sense as to, of those 300 properties, how did people really feel about the DCPC versus zoning? Ladies and gentlemen, you have petitions and a letter in front of you today, signed by people who own property in the district. Of the 300 pieces of property, you have signatures on petitions flatly opposing a DCPC, but supporting the same document.
I would ask...
I'll be finished in a moment.
Couple minutes, please.
Yes, sir, I will.
We have other people, thank you.
You will see that of the 300 people, 209 of the 211 who were approached to date signed that petition, supporting local zoning and opposing the DCPC. That's an astounding number, is it not? It's about 100%, just under 100% of the people who were approached, and almost 70% of the total. Now, I would respectfully suggest to you that it is important to give added weight. Mr. Barry mentioned the importance of counselors from the district being given added weight. I would say, much more importantly, not counselors, the people who own property in the district. Those are the people who you should give added weight to, and it is overwhelmingly against this proposition. Now, you do have, despite what I believe the planning board member mentioned, but as I believe staff correctly stated,
1 minute.
You do have the option.
1 minute, please.
Yes, indeed. You do have the option to either approve this and take this the next step to the Board of Delegates, or you do have the option of not approving and letting this lapse and let the decision of the local city council stand. And I urge you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, Nancy B. Looks like Solette.
Can I defer to someone else, or do I have to talk now?
Are you going to just pass on talking and defer to someone else? Is that what you want to do?
I'll switch this with her. Okay. For the record, my name is Nancy Soulette. I own property at 137 Long Beach Road. I'm in the Craigville Beach District of Critical Planning Concern. I pay $15,000 a year in property taxes to the town of Barnstable. And I care deeply about this beach, the area that we're talking about. I've joined with my neighbors on 2 separate occasions to re-nourish the barrier beach, which, if we had not done that, there would be far less beach to be discussing today. I'm a seasonal resident, let me be clear. I don't vote. And many people in the town of Barnstable think that that means my opinion should not count. But I'm here today anyway to express my opinion about this DCPC because I trust that the Cape Cod Commission will agree that any property owner affected by zoning should have a right to participate in the zoning process. First of all, I would like you to know that I am very sympathetic with the intent of these proposed regulations, and I understand that most of the regulations in the document are worthwhile. However, I disagree with the method of imposing the zoning changes in this area. I believe that using the DCPC tool to regulate growth in the Craigville Beach District is not appropriate. Once a DCPC is imposed, there are no checks and balances. Anything can be changed, and I can't do a thing about it. As a seriously affected party, I want to be represented. I want to be involved in the process, and most of all, I want recourse. That's judicial review. I won't have these rights under the DCPC format. Also, I think that the DCPC approach should be reserved for regional issues, with regulations that even-handedly apply to all estuaries on the Cape. It should not be used as a substitute for local zoning or to single out only part of a watershed the way this one does. In my view, the proposed regulations before you are clearly local. I urge you to let our DCPC designation lapse so that we can work to implement similar regulations in the form of local zoning. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Jeff Cook.
Good afternoon, and to the Chairman and the Commission. My name is Jeff Cook, for the record. I live at 545 South Main Street, so I'm one of the people that look over the river and down into Long Beach area. One of the people, I guess, that wasn't approached a long time ago to give their opinion, and now I am. I have 25 years of real estate experience and sit on various real estate boards throughout Massachusetts and government affairs committees and business improvement districts. I clearly understand the need to, in the conversation that we're having today regarding, architectural, environmental, and historical preservation of space and buildings. But after reading the DCP, the implementation of a DCP, I believe, goes beyond what is currently needed in that district to maintain the integrity of that area. It all can be done by just using, as Mr. Warner said, is zoning laws. We've seemed to come to agreement very close on those zoning laws, and to let it be handled by local officials seems to be the right way to do it, and what I would say is the right way to do it in my history and in the dealings that I've had. The implementation of a DCP leaves open, the ability to potentially make changes that I think will continue to erode the rights of the landowners in that area. And particularly, as again, Mr. Warner said regarding legislative in Chapter 40A. I do think you'll see over time, well, I should say, real estate is a personal issue. It is the foundation and a center block to financial security. And I will say over time, when you see more legislation involved in real estate, you tend to have an erosion of value because of people who are sitting there like certainty. And continued legislation brings uncertainty to the marketplace.
Wrap in a minute, please.
Yes, I will. So I think you're going to see that these landowners are going to have, over time, a financial impact. I would sit and say that you let the DCP lapse, and I firmly disagree with it. And being a person that is on Main Street and that's looking into these homes, I believe that if you enact zoning laws, they will work and they will protect my rights from where I am. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Jim Lane.
Hi, my name is Jim Lang. I live in Craigville Village in Centerville. I'm an all-year-round resident, and I support the DCPC. This is like the movie with Bill Murray, Groundhog Day. I've been here, I've heard all this so many times, but I got involved with this more than 5 years ago when they were planning to do the Tradewinds condominium complex. The Tradewinds was a 2-story cinder block motel with 3 small cottages, and the town's boards approved 3.5-story abomination of a building and 2 other buildings attached to it. And there's 2 buildings yet unbuilt that will probably be unbuilt. And I felt this should be the line in the sand. This thing could happen to the whole Craigville Beach area. I'm glad that the town bought the SUNY Sands property, and the town is negotiation to take over the Eunice Kennedy Shriver property to hold that from development. I respect people's property rights, but I don't think anybody has the right to overwhelm their next-door neighbor, the neighborhood, or the environment. And then further, learned attorney talked about the petition that Long Beach people had. My neighbor across the street from me, ordained United Church of Christ minister, she was approached a couple of weeks ago, and it's completely unfair. You could get on signatures if you demonize the Cape Cod Commission and start off your approach with, do you know if your house burnt down, you'd never be able to replace it? If my house on Long Beach was destroyed by a storm, I'd never be able to replace it. And then just what a boogeyman the Cape Cod Commission is. But I'm certain you could get signatures. But I think Meg has demonstrated that townwide, the people that use Craigville Beach from all other parts of Barnstable that are residents overwhelmingly agree that the DCP is the thing to do. And I urge you to enact it, no matter what the town council votes or could vote or whatever. But I hope you have the courage to take this over and enact it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Charles Orr, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'm the boogeyman because I'm the one that was going around with the petition. This representation here is, as Attorney Weiner had said, at several public hearings, it was mentioned by supporters of the DCPC that the majority of the residents in the district were in favor of this. And we decided to put it to a test, and I personally went door to door, took as much time as it needed to explain both sides of the issue, and this is the result. The red dots represent those people who are homeowners in the district who are in favor of local zoning changes. They don't want the status quo. We all realize that there's a problem in the area, but they do not want the DCPC because of the restrictions, the taking away of grandfathered rights, and the fact that we lose any recourse with judicial review if the town says that, you can't do this or you can't do that. This is the representation. We only got to about 70%. We started this a week before Labor Day. Most of the people who live here are seasonal. But as others have said, this was started by people who do not live in the district. It was also nominated. Somebody had mentioned this process going on while there were blizzards and snow. Well, seasonal residents aren't here at that time of year. Nobody in this district was made aware that it was going to be nominated as a DCPC. Nobody in this district was notified. Most of us found out either through the town, if people were going to do a remodel. That's how we found out about this. So we were not brought into the process when it was decided that they would go to a DCPC.
Wrap in a minute, please. 1 minute, please.
Yes. Winnetoxet is a Wampanoag word meaning by the good waters. It's also a word on a quarter board that has hung in our house since it was built on Long Beach back in the early 1900s. It's a reminder of the special place that this area is. It's also a reminder of the stewardship that is required of one who lives near the good waters. The good waters aren't so good anymore, but it's because of nitrogen loading from the septic systems of all the houses that have been built in Centerville and Osterville since the 1960s. Development without the foresight to recognize the importance of sewering is a large part of the problem. Many of the developments that are contributing to the nitrogen loading in this river are not in the DCPC. And to effectively clean up that river, which everybody has stated is the purpose, those areas need to be included.
Finished?
Yep.
Is that good?
That's it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I live at 157 Long Beach Road, and I am a voting resident of the town of Barnstable.
Thank you. Chris Outwin.
Thank you for the opportunity to exercise our First Amendment rights here to peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. So people are being pretty patient, though I'm hearing some sniping going on in the back, which I personally don't appreciate. In any case, we live at 19/25 Ladd Road. We abut the town landing in the town of Centerville, the Hayward Landing. We've been there for 51 years. This process started, I was 59 and a half, now I'm 62. We haven't been able to do anything with our property. So I just want to argue for fairness under a couple of different points. Number one, the moratorium. If, as everyone has said, when this was passed in June of 2008, then it became enforced. Why was there a moratorium? Of course, the reason there was a moratorium was there was no way to implement what had been passed. So there we were, so we're all sitting. For us specifically, we have problems with the language as it is proposed, and it doesn't matter whether it's in local zoning or whether it's in Cape Cod Commission-wide. We have a small house, which was a dandy place to be for about 45 of the last 51 years. About 6 years ago, the town doubled the size of the parking lot. Something that needed to be done. There's not a lot of access in the town of Centerville to the Centerville River, and so that wiped out the marsh and the marsh grass that we used to look across. It's a sacrifice that we accept. Then the river was dredged, and so there's a great deal more activity. This has greatly impacted the house that we have, which is a 1,200 square foot house on a 3/4 of an acre lot. We're way, way, way the smallest house in the neighborhood. All the houses nearby are far larger to the dimensions of 3 to 4 times. The house that we look across the river at is has 6 bedrooms, 4 full baths, and it's on a 1/3 of an acre. So in any case, we're on 3/4 of an acre.
Wrap in a minute, please.
Yes. Vice Chair, when we've presented before you, you were hostile to us, and I think that that's an abridgment of our rights when we met with you in executive committee. So I will try to be as fast as I can. So we have a 1,200 square foot house on a 3/4 of an acre lot. Under the provisions that are in 24-1316, we could theoretically build a house no larger than 3,200 square feet. However, if the gorilla in the room is grandfathering, the chimpanzee in the room is voluntary demolition. We would like to be able to remove the house that's presently there so that we can move on our lot so that we're looking at the river and not looking across the parking lot, which has been something that's been inflicted on us by the town, or we've had to live with. It's not inflicted. We're happy to have the town landing next to us. We've been there for 51 years. Under this regulation, we can't deal it. So the fairness that we're arguing for is not 100 feet from us on Main Street in Centerville. A brand new structure has been proposed. The old house was torn down. It's put up. It's,
please. Can you wind it up, please?
20 feet.
In the interest of other speakers?
Yes.
Thank you.
In any case, this just plain isn't fair. I wish that if you're going to impose this on everybody, that the upper Centerville River's not in it, the lower Centerville River's not in it, the Bumps River isn't in it. The most egregious example of mansionization is in the town of Wellfleet, next to Great Island. So if you're going to impose this on us, impose it on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know I'm going to mess this one up. William E. Rickman? Rickman. Pass? Thank you. Mark Goldberg, is that correct? Okay.
I am Mark Goldberg, and I'm a property owner at 229 Long Beach Road. My family has been in that house since 1964, and while I'm only a part-time resident of it, given how many times my kids and I have moved, it is the one place that my kids consider home. It is a very special place to us, and it's a place that we have tried to be good stewards of. As Nancy mentioned, the property owners at our own expense have renourished the beach twice. We've taken a lot of effort to keep the character of the community the way we have known it, and I have known it for almost 50 years. You've heard a lot of discussion on the merits. I want to talk to you about my experience with the process here, because the process here is an extraordinarily important part. In theory, this is a wonderful idea. And I was told initially that this was something that the local people had brought together and were trying to decide on. Turns out, that's not true. As former president of the Centerville Civic Association made it clear, this was actually initiated by a handful of active individuals outside of the district and then brought to the Centerville Civic Association. Now, others may disagree, but Mark Stanley was very clear in his public remarks on August 4th, 2009. I was also told this would be a community process. Now, I'm involved in lots of processes. I've chaired one of the state colleges in this state. I'm currently head of an organization of 25,000 individuals. I understand process. But you don't do a process in which people are not around to participate. And meetings were deliberately held at times in which people couldn't participate. I was away having to earn a living. Now, yes, some people were able to send attorneys, and with all due respect, that's wonderful, but I can't imagine any of you thinking that having your attorney there is the same as having you in the room participating and being part of the process.
Get you to wrap in a minute, please.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard about dueling petitions. I know about situations in which residents of the area have left a meeting and then people who had alternative petitions supporting the DCPC implementation regs have then come in and asked people to sign petitions. That's not fair game. I've heard wonderful things about great objectives. I'll give you one tangible example. View corridors. Sounds wonderful, great idea. How many of you actually realize that the road is below the grade of the land going up to the ocean? My property has nothing but lawn. And right now, without any trees there, what you see is not the ocean. We're not protecting ocean views. You see my lawn. There are regulations there that people want to implement because it's what they believe is true, not what the residents want to do. This is a flawed process. You should not be approving the result of a flawed process. The Cape Cod Commission is brought here to be able to help us preserve and protect the place that we love. You should be bringing people together. This didn't do it. And you, as human beings, should not be approving a process that has driven people apart.
Thank you. Dom Gutrow? Very good. Thank you.
For the record, I'm Dom Gutrow from 103 Long Beach Road in Centerville. I'm a property owner, a resident, and a voter in Precinct 4. Over the course of the last several years, I've been before you several times, and prior to that, those of you who go back far enough, I was here getting the Centerville River dredged as one of our good steward aspects. We, the property owners, have done a ton of things to enhance the barrier beach. You've heard already about the renourishment of the beach that we have done twice to the tune of $1 million. I noticed that Councilor Dagwam said before that the beaches should be for all the people, not just for the residents. But again, if it wasn't for the residents, there would be no beach for Councilor Dagwam or anybody else to walk on. This is part of our stewardship. And I was happy to hear your executive director, Paul Niedzwiecki, talk about the fact that we have been good stewards of the beach. But this DCPC has gone too far from the standpoint of the grandfathered rights aspect. We've agreed, negotiated, talked about view corridors, building height, dimension, mass, everything, and we have come to agreement on all of those issues. What we have not agreed with is the fact that it should be done through the town of Barnstable. Councilor Crocker had tried to get that passed with the town council. It did not go very far. We would like to see you take the implementing regulations, let them lapse, and let it go back to the town council. And we will work just as hard as we've had to get all of these signatures. Okay, 70 some odd % of the property owners, we will work just as hard to get it passed at the town council level as zoning amendments so that we can continue to have our property rights and our grandfathered rights. This is an important issue, but it's one that we believe we can work together with both sides if you folks will let it lapse and let it go back to the town council. Councilor Rugo before said when this process started with the notes on the wall. 1 minute, please. Thank you. About the various aspects of what the DCPC was supposed to do, he did not mention that none of those notes on the wall said, we're going to take away your property rights. I was at that meeting at Our Lady of Victory Church, and there was nothing on there about the DCPC taking away our property rights. And that's where the issue is for us. We ask that you let it lapse and send it back to the town council, where we will work just as hard to get it passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Arlene M Wilson.
Good afternoon. My name is Arlene Wilson. I have a small engineering firm in Marston's Mills, and we specialize in difficult sites and waterfront work. So my remarks are going to be a little different than anything you've heard this afternoon. Whether you pass or don't pass this set of regulations is lower on my agenda than being able to advise my clients about what the regulations say. And I've provided some technical comments and questions. I hope you all have them. They went by email yesterday. There are a number of conflicts in the regulations, most particularly about the height to which a building can be elevated. The staff report, I think on the basis of the last time you heard comments from people about these regulations, suggest that people should be able to elevate their structures 2 feet above the base flood elevation, regardless of whether it's an A or a V zone. But then in the regulations themselves, in some places they say you can do 2 feet in an A zone, and in some places they say you can only do 1. Please make it 2 feet everywhere. There's a current datum change for those of you who are familiar with survey work that's going to eliminate a foot of that sometime in the next year or 2 anyway. So 2 feet is going to be really important. The definition of what's an elevated structure is a little funky in the regulations. Lot area, the definition could be a lot clearer. I think you want to exclude intertidal beach, for instance, but the way the definition's written leaves a big question that people are going to fight about, I'm absolutely sure. I don't know why exempt uses for schools and agriculture are left out here. They're state required. There are a number of other technical things that were in my letter that I hope you review, but the one thing that wasn't in that letter is an architectural issue. And if you think back to the graphic that Martha put on the board for you at the beginning about what a house could look like after it was enlarged, and you remember that it had a step back on two sides, so it had like shed dormers or shed roofs around the first floor on two sides. That's a piece of architecture that became prevalent in the 90s and the early 2000s on the Cape. It rarely exists anywhere in this district. There are other ways to make sure that the second floor is smaller than the first floor than telling people they have to do something that, if we're going to protect the historic integrity of the district, introduces a brand new issue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I think I'll get this right. Arnold Mason.
Good evening. My name is Arnold Mason. I'm a resident, voting resident for over 40 years. It's my home at 234 Long Beach Road in Centerville. I live on the riverside of Long Beach Road. I have been a member of our organization on the street for many, many years, and I come here to talk, as one of my neighbors has said, from my heart. If you look at many people who know the street and walk down our street, have always comment about my home. You had it up on the screen here, and all the flowers and all the trees. We have been sincere stewards to Long Beach, to the area. I am against the approach of the DCCP. I favor the local zoning. We have there's so many people who want to say so many things. I just want to bring out one thing about the water problems that have been that are part of this situation, and that is over at Lake Waquaket, where they have the real serious problem. They voted to against what they were told they could do to have sewers. We in this area are in favor of sewers. We want to make our area better. We are I think next on the list or second on the list, and we want to do something about it. We have been great stewards. What we've done in getting the re-nourishing of the beach, what we've done with the Centerville River, we were very instrumental in making that happen. And all of that sand that has gone over there has always gone down to the regular Craigville Beach area, where everybody's been able to share on it. We've saved the town a lot of money. We pay lots of real estate taxes, more for a very important thing, that we pay a lot more taxes than we ask for services from the town. And that, I hope you people will really sincerely see what we have, how we have been such great stewards of the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your stewardship. Amy Griswold? Okay. Is it Merrilee Crane? Is that correct?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Merrilee Crane. I own 3 properties in the district. One in Craigville Village, which has been in our family since 1919, and our grandchildren are 6th generation in the house. One on the ocean side at Long Beach at 195 Long Beach, and one at 749 South Main on the Centerville River. I am against the Cape Cod Commission implementing the DCPC mainly for the grandfathering rights. I attended informational meetings around the area at which Joanne Buntage spoke. I was trying to educate people that our appeals process under Massachusetts 40A would be taken away. And Joanne Buntage said, it is not our intent, meaning the proponents of the DCPC, to take your rights away. And I said, but that's what will happen. And I think the informational meetings got really skewed and some misinformation got out. When we bought 2 of the properties on the river and the ocean, we knew they had grandfathering protection. If the grandfathering protection is taken away, I feel it diminishes the property value of those properties. We pay just under $100,000 in real estate taxes for all 3 of our houses. Will I get a break on my real estate taxes if I can prove that the passage of the DCPC under the Cape Cod Commission has taken away our grandfathering rights? Probably not. I've fought tax issues before. I think this is the wrong way to go about it. I think amending Massachusetts 40A with some of the same, most all the same provisions, our family has been very conservation conscious, is a better way to go through local zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Nelson Orr.
Hi, I'm Nelson Orr at 153 Long Beach Road, and I would like to reiterate a lot of things you've heard the people against the DCPC say, that we have been good stewards of the beach. I could probably say that the beach wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us. And I understand it's a barrier beach, but you probably have the same thing they have in Chatham in their barrier beach. It's broken through. It's gone. And now the lands behind it are being attacked by the ocean, and they're in danger. If we weren't there to re-nourish that beach twice, that beach would be gone now. I can guarantee you. Hurricane Bob and the winter storms that followed did break through. They broke through down across Bumps River. We replenished it. And the dredging that the Long Beach Association pushed for and got helped replenish that area also. I think one of the things that upsets me during this is a lot of people that are for it have gotten up here and said that we characterize you as awful people, that, you know, you've got horns on your head and a tail coming out, you're behind, and that's not the truth. I have not heard anybody say anything like that, and I believe people saying those things about us are trying to characterize us towards you. And not being included in this DCPC from the beginning was a big mistake, and they'll tell you there was a public notice. I believe, if I'm correct, the public notice was in the Barnstable Patriot in the middle of winter, and we're not here. I think a civic organization has the duty to let everybody in the area know what is going to happen to their area if they put something through. Did we fight it? Yeah, we fought it. That original DCPC did say we could not rebuild our homes. Think about it. In your neighborhood, if they, thank you, if they told you, well, you're next to a river, and, you know, right now the septic systems are no good, I mean, you could say this to people in Wequacket. If you lost your home, we're not going to let you rebuild it. I think you would probably go get an attorney and fight against that, which is what we're doing. And we have no ill will towards anybody. I would bet of any private beach on the Cape, this beach is wide open to the public to walk it. We don't keep people out. We're happy to let people walk up and down that beach. It's, you know, that's what it is. It's there to be enjoyed, and we want everybody to enjoy it. And we're willing to replenish and keep that barrier beach there as long as we own those homes. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your stewardship. Steve Brown.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Steve Brown. I live year-round in Craigville Village in Barnstable, and I have come to encourage the Commission to support the implementation of regulations established by the Craigville Beach Area District of Critical Planning Concern. I should say that some of my neighbors are in favor of the DCPC and some of them are opposed to the DCPC. And I am a proponent of civility and political process. And I don't think any of them have horns in the tail, and last I looked, I don't either. This is democracy in action, and I affirm that, and I thank you for the privilege of speaking this evening. I serve as the president of the Red Lily Pond Project Association, and I'm here as a volunteer concerned with the health of our community. Water is the cornerstone of health. When this DCPC was first nominated, our board of directors voted to support the DCPC. This support continues because the DCPC's primary purpose is to protect and preserve the water quality of the Craigville Beach area and the health of all the creatures, including the human creatures, who depend on this water. Here's a chalice of water from the Red Lily Pond. When Craigville was founded in 1872 and for 100 years after, people drank this water, swam in this water, ate fish that were caught in this water. My wife grew up in this town, as did many of the neighbors, right? Used to sail there, fish there, and swim there. But since the 1970s, the quality of this water has been threatened. The Red Lily Pond Project has worked since 1975 to restore the pond and the entire watershed it feeds, including the herring run to the Centerville River, the river and the estuary. We've had some successes. We installed a cluster septic system to serve 17 homes. We built a new fish ladder in the herring run and a box culvert to open the flow to the river and the sea. Despite these efforts, this water remains at risk. Despite local zoning, over the last few years, large developments have sprung up on the banks of the Red Lily Pond, Lake Elizabeth,
1 minute,
and the
please.
Centerville River. This recent history teaches us that should local zoning be the only protection offered for the water in this system, this development trend will continue and accelerate. The Craigville Beach DCPC represents the last best hope for our dream, that someday people will once again be able to eat the fish and the shellfish from this watershed, that someday people will once again be able to swim in Red Lily Pond, and that someday my grandchildren and all my neighbors' grandchildren will look back and say at the critical moment the Cape Cod Commission was true to its mandate and voted to protect this water we all love. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of this resource.
Thank you. Thomas Welton? Thomas Welton?
My name's Tom Welton, live on Long Beach Road with and have ownership of a house with my children. Just want to say one thing. We've made some pretty hard choices over the last 60 years in our family to keep that piece of property. And part of that property is being able to borrow money, to be able to know and have some fiscal stability. And I think that the DPC regulation will take some of that stability away from us. I just look at this and what I've heard today, and I've been told it's all about managing growth. Well, that managing growth may be true, but I look at it as mandating a loss of our rights. And I think that's a much more important thing at this moment, that this government shouldn't take away the rights of property owners who have worked really hard for a long, long time to keep their properties. Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. I'm going to mess this one up. Is it Katerina Beach Road Court? I'm sorry? Christina De Castro. Oh, okay. Thank you for the help.
Hello, my name is Christina De Castro. I'm a property owner in the Craigville Beach DCPC area, and I am against the implementing regulations. I support local zoning. For more than 50 years, 4 generations of my family have diligently and conscientiously maintained our property at 200 Long Beach Road. Today, the Long Beach Centerville River area is in better shape than it has been in my entire lifetime. The Centerville River is cleaner, and the beach is more stable, more substantial, less threatened by erosion, and more beautiful than ever. I would argue that this is due in large part to the efforts efforts of the Long Beach Association and the residents of Long Beach Road. We have twice come together to privately fund major renourishment of Long Beach, which benefits all visitors to the area, not just us property owners. We've also worked hand in hand with public officials to bring about the dredging of the Centerville River. I'm a property owner and a resident of Centerville, but apparently not a full resident in the eyes of some in my community. I'm only a part-time resident, so my rights don't count. It makes no sense. As it stands, I pay a higher amount of taxes because I am not a year-round resident. That hurts. What hurts more is the feeling that other residents of my town believe that my rights don't count. We heard Councilor Rugo talk today about meetings during cold winter nights. Is that a coincidence? I would say not. Most of the owners in the DCPC area were not included in these discussions. Let's remember what Janet Jochum said today. The point is to eliminate grandfathering. One of my neighbors, for example of how this has impacted people in my community, one of my neighbors has had a house for sale for a period of time. He lost the only buyer that has come forward in the last 2 years because of this DCPC. That buyer went across the Centerville River, purchased a house that was just outside the boundaries of this DCPC. I would like to point out, as the architect before me has pointed out, the document isn't clear, it needs to be tweaked. No matter what. There are inconsistencies that must be pounded out, whether it's done as local zonings or as implementing regulations. But what's important is that you have the power to remove the rights of this residents of the Craigville Beach area. Not only their grandfathering rights, but their ability to have judicial review under Section 40A. And most importantly, their essential right to elect public officials who will represent their interests in the realm of local zoning.
Get you to wrap, please.
Please let these implementing regulations lapse so that we can then go back and work hard, as Dom Gutrow has said, to implement these regulations as local zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to try to limit it to 2 minutes, please, to get everybody in the interest of time. Kate Singletary, is it? Is that right? Oh, she left. Okay. Charles Piscitelli.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Piscitelli. My wife and I own 2 parcels, 79 and 86 Short Beach Road. We do not live there, but we are residents and voters in the town of Barnstable. I am adamantly opposed to the town of Barnstable, through the town council and its boards and agencies, giving up their authority and their control over this district to, with all due respect, a group of people who do not answer directly to those of us who are going to be affected by these rules and changes. I'm not opposed to rules and changes except for the grandfathering. I think it's important that that remain in there, and those who have spoke in favor of eliminating the grandfathering clause, I just wonder how they would react were they affected by this in the areas in which they live. Several points that were made today by several town councilors, Councilor Barry, suggesting that any of the no votes that were cast were not cast by councilmen in the area. All of the yes votes that were cast were not cast by councilmen in the area. Councilman Rugo suggested that in 20 years he hasn't seen any changes in the area, specifically the beach area. Well, if there haven't been any changes for 20 years, why all of a sudden do we have to protect against changes? And the new council member who spoke about it being the community and the town and everything being for the town, I'm in agreement with that. The Cape Cod Commission is outside the town. They take in the whole Cape, not just the town. It should be kept within the town. And I would wonder, with her wanting the whole town involved, would she vote the same on the Stewart's Creek financing of that sewer project, that the whole town pay for it rather than just the citizens that are directly affected by it? Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Fisher.
Okay, councilors. Pete Fisher, past president of the Centerville Civic Association, and I'm here to urge adoption of the DCPC regulations, which I believe will prevent overdevelopment. I was president of the organization during the run-up to the designation of the DCPC and attended many meetings of Centerville residents dedicated to improving Centerville. Those meetings were initially what we called visioning sessions, which the town ran. The town ran them in all the villages. I think they've done almost all of them now. We were the first. And the references to meetings those were most of the meetings. The Civic Association sort of co-sponsored those, and we also ran 2 meetings a year for the whole community about different topics. But in the summer of 2008 and the 2009, in August, our annual meeting was held at the South Congregational Church. And everyone in town was invited. We had signs all over town. It was in the paper. And I had a hand in making up the signs that were plastered all over town in the places like the post office and in the stores and places like that, the library. And I made them kind of controversial, hoping that people would pay attention. And one of them, several of them said, zoning changes coming to Centerville. And we did get people there from Long Beach. I know that Tom Gutrow came one summer, and Jack Driscoll came another. We had those meetings in the summer, so the town residents who are not here during the year had a voice. The town officials assisted with these meetings. They attended the meetings, they provided information about the meetings, and most important, they listened to all the citizens. All 3 of our town councilors, who are all in favor of this, attended. They all contributed, and again,
wrap in a minute,
most important,
please.
They listened. I'll be through in a second. I want to thank the Centerville residents who attended these meetings, as well as our 3 councilors, and most important, our town officials who listened to the residents and nominated the Craigville area DCPC. Again, I urge you to adopt these regulations. It's the right thing to do to protect this sensitive area.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work. Shirley Fisher.
Good afternoon. Shirley Fisher, Centerville resident, Barnstable High School graduate. Spent my teenage years flirting with the lifeguards on Craigville Beach. It's been my privilege recently to volunteer actively here, Vice President of the town's Land Acquisition Committee, board member, Centerville Historical Museum, etc. Thus, I feel I bring both longitudinal and affectionate familiarity with the Craigville Beach area. By the way, it has begun to change. Possibly presumptuously, I do think I accurately represent the average year-round resident's viewpoint. I hope you will accept this as a truthful statement. In sum, the average resident who does not live in the district opposes both overdevelopment and the present zoning process in the DCPC area. Repeatedly, I hear, present zoning just isn't working. Quote, recently, I tested this viewpoint in gathering petition signatures supporting the DCPC implementing regulations. I deliberately sought out a town-wide cross-section of residents, Osterville shopkeepers, tradespeople, community college senior citizen students, everyone, including both Centerville and non-Centerville residents, everyone that I approached signed our petition enthusiastically, which our president, I believe, has submitted, with only one exception. The DCPC regulations before you allow reasonable expansion. They use specific language. They represent some compromise. The DCPC property owners' present right to appeal to the local ZBA is protected. That right has not been taken away.
1 minute, please.
Thank you. Further, the Commission's staff report, which I just read today, recommends adding requirements for reporting and pumping septic systems in the DCPC area. This not only strengthens the implementing regulations, which I did feel earlier felt short in this area, but this will gain additional support from the average resident like myself. Please pass the DCPC regulations as presented and protect this unique river beach resource without further delay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just going to use a first name because it's the only Jack that's left. Jack, and I can't read the writing. My eyes aren't what they used to be.
I'm Jack Driscoll. I live on 75 Long Beach Road. I'm a full-time, year-round resident, have been for about 12 years now, and I'm a voter in Centerville. I just have a couple of items that I wanted to cover. One of the things I haven't heard any consideration on is the effect the DCPC is going to have on property values in the area. I talked to more than a dozen real estate companies in this area and also in the Boston area over the past year and asked how they felt a DCPC would affect the real estate values. The thing that I got was everyone said it would have some effect. It would reduce the real estate values. The percentage varied. It varied from about 5% to almost 30%, depending on the person. Now, if you start to take away our grandfathering rights with the DCPC, you're going to reduce the real estate values for this whole area. And we have more than 200 properties in this area. None of these people want the DCPC. They've all signed the petition. By the way, who's going to compensate us for this very significant loss in our value of our property? Is this the Cape Cod Commission? So maybe we may have to go after, use legal precedents to do something about this. And any of the commissioners who vote in favor of this should realize that we will look to the Cape Cod Commission for compensation if this passes. This means the individual towns will have to come up with additional funding to pay for this if the DCPC passes. So just be aware of this. Several years ago, we were concerned the town of Barnstable's assessment of our Long Beach properties were too high. And a group of 20 of us on Long Beach Road filed for abatements. We then hired an attorney and took the case to the Appellate Tax Board, where our abatements were rejected. It took a few years, but we won. We got refunds, and we changed the designation of our property and got lower taxes for all the people on Long Beach Road. If the DCPC is passed, the town of Barnstable will have 200 abatements, or maybe 300 abatements, filed for all the people, in the area.
1 minute, wrap it, please.
It will mean a significant reduction in the taxes for the town of Barnstable, meaning taxes in the other parts of the town, will go up. So you have to think about these consequences before you support the DCPC. Of course, we'd prefer to resolve the issue within the town by a rezoning amendment. We don't need a DCPC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Didn't know if you heard me.
I did.
Okay.